Hey, Jarek here, and this is a Blowback semi-automatic shell ejecting Nerf gun that doesn't run off batteries or gas. Those of you that have been around long enough are probably asking, isn't that just the Glock 18 you already reviewed but Desert Eagle-ified? And yes, these things are basically the same, and this one jams about as much as that one does. I wanted to see if I give it a second chance, if it would work properly, because they're not terribly expensive, and the answer is no, but I'll get to that. First, let me explain how this works. If it doesn't run off gas or a battery, then how does it do this? Well, it's just opposing springs on the inside. Pretty simple design. But then how does it shoot anything? If all of its force is going into the slide, how does a projectile go anywhere? Well, the answer is pretty clever. That is in the casings themselves. So these are the casings that eject out of the Desert Eagle. If you see in the front here, there's a spring. That is because this is the projectile it fires, this tiny little plastic butt plug looking thing. Yeah, the projectiles are very small because they have to fit inside of this. That spring is just to launch that projectile. So this is all that is launching everything. This is the only thing involved with firing anything out of this gun. This blaster basically functions like an open bolt SMG. When the slide comes forward, it hits a button on the back of the casing, which then releases the projectile to fly out of the barrel. It's overall pretty simple. This thing has some interesting quirks due to how it functions. The first thing I really need to point out, and I can't stress this enough, do not rack the slide. If you rack the slide, you will break it. This is locked closed. That said, this thing tends to jam all the time, and when it jams, it's a stovepipe jam, so there'll be like a casing stuck here, like that. If it's like this, that's fine. You can just pull the slide back to clear that out. It's only once it has fully locked that you can't pull it back. The next question you have is, well, if I can't rack it, how do I get these shells into the chamber? The answer is you don't actually need to, since when this slide functions, it fires when it slams forward, meaning the shell inside the chamber is an empty shell. It already fired its projectile. What's ejecting is the previous round. This also means the last shell that ejects will just be a blank. It won't fire anything. It also has a slide lock, as I'm sure you've noticed. The slide will lock back on the last shot, but this also means if I put in, let's say I'll put this in the magazine, and I put this magazine in, when I release this slide, it will either A, launch this projectile automatically, or B, it didn't launch it that time, or B, when I shoot, it's just going to eject a casing and not shoot anything. Or jam. But yeah, this one is not going to fire if you end up doing it that way. So I would recommend that you would just do this instead. Okay, that time it actually shot. That time it actually ejected. When I chronoed this, I was actually kind of surprised. I expected the FPS to be a bit lower, but no, it averaged in the mid-40s. With that said, these projectiles are really small and really light, but the spring is also really small, so I didn't really know what fully to expect, but 40 is definitely higher than what I thought would be. That said, these projectiles are basically really tiny, small plastic butt plugs. They're not aerodynamic, they tumble in the air and they fall very quickly, so they're not gonna go very far. But I mean, if you're buying this, are you really caring about performance? No, this is just a toy. And as far as looks goes, this thing looks really good. Now, I actually do already have a chrome Desert Eagle, but that one is just spring and you have to cock it every time to eject the shell, so I probably won't even bother making a video of it compared to something like this. But again, this Gold Eagle looks really nice. It is definitely smaller than that of an actual Desert Eagle, actually significantly smaller. This is more regular handgun sized, but it still looks really good. It's entirely made out of plastic. It doesn't feel creaky or like I would be able to snap it in two, but it also doesn't feel incredibly sturdy. It's not terribly expensive, so again, what I expected. It even has engravings on the side that look pretty good. Most of them are accurate. There's one really glaring mistake though on this side, where it should say 50 AE, it says SO AE, SOE, SOE. Yeah, that S should be a 5. Okay, enough talking good about this thing. In concept, it's awesome. In execution, it kind of sucks. If you manage to get through a mag without it jamming, then you are the luckiest person on earth. This thing jams all the time. Now, this one did perform a bit better than the Glock I got in the past, but again, you can't get through one mag without it jamming. I think I did twice out of the 20 or something mags that I fired. Typically when I'm recording the shooting demonstration that I put at the end of these videos, I want a clean take. I eventually gave up with this one. I just said, screw it, it's gonna jam as I'm shooting it. I'm just gonna unjam it and put that in. Good enough, I give up. I did get a few clean takes, which look awesome. I used one of them at the beginning of this video, but if you're expecting something functional, I would not recommend this. I did get quite a few comments on my previous video saying that I expected too much from a toy. What, I expect it to work as intended? That's too much? Get out of here. Anyway, yeah, that's how it works. They're not tremendously expensive, but I still wouldn't recommend them because they just don't work. I think I'm gonna stop rambling now. I did get some shots of me shooting this thing because when it does work, it's really cool. I just wish it did. Enough rambling, let's just shoot it.